You've probably heard how Javelin or TOW-2B are the ultimate weapons for killing tanks because they target the vulnerable roof armor, which is very thin and thus guarantee that the tank will be destroyed. Well, the reality is a bit different. While they are really excellent weapons, they do have some shortcomings when compared to other anti-tank launchers. Keep in mind that I will mainly focus on top attack weapons used by infantry. The ones fired from helicopters, for example, have much better chances of destroying the tanks, because on top of being, well, top attack, they are launched from a much higher altitude, increasing the chances to perform a kill. I will also talk about their effect on most modern tanks they could be facing, because there isn't much point in comparing them to obsolete vehicles. But before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my sponsor, War Thunder. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is a military vehicle combat online game. It is free to play on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Not to mention that it is cross-platform between PC and consoles. The game features an incredible arsenal of more than 1500 historically accurate playable tanks, aircraft, helicopters and ships from 1930s to 1990s. Best thing about the game are its realistic physics and one of the most detailed and most immersive vehicle damage models in gaming. If you use my link to register, you will receive a bonus, a premium vehicle, tank, aircraft or ship, as well as 3-day account boost. The game is completely free, so you can start playing immediately. Let's start with the FGM-148 Javelin, probably the most famous top attack missile, mainly because it is portable with the fire and forget ability, which means you can just lock on the target and shoot. You don't have to maintain the sight on the target to guide the missile, because it guides itself. But how does that actually work? Well, Javelin command launch unit can lock on the thermal signature of the vehicle, or pretty much any thermal signature. The information about the target's location and the information about the target itself are sent to the missile in the launcher. Then when the locking procedure is over, the missile can be launched. Once it is up in the air, the missile commences its own searching procedure, aiming down at the location where it was fired at and looking for the thermal signature of the target based on the data inputted from the launcher. When the target is located by the missile, it will keep following it wherever the target goes, ultimately achieving a hit. This is a really effective way to deal with the tanks, because once you fire a missile, you can run back to safety, while being pretty sure that it will actually hit the tank. The main purpose of Javelin is to engage the tanks from a long range. The most modern lightweight command launch unit increases the range up to 4 km. Realistically, the chances of actually engaging a tank at such a distance is minimal. Nevertheless, Javelin is extremely useful in that situation. Now, what are the actual problems? Well, first problem is the actual penetration of the tanks. Javelin is tandem shaped, which means it can penetrate explosive reactive armor, or it could. Modern tanks like Russian T-90M, T-80 BVM or T-14 Armata have explosive reactive armor that affects even the tandem-shaped heat. The problem here is that, by default, Javelin has 750mm of penetration. After older ERA, it would probably have around 600mm of penetration, based on all tandem-shaped heat with similar performance. Now, Relict, which is used on T-80 BVM and T-90M, degrades the tandem penetration by 40%, so it would degrade the penetration for some 300mm, leaving around 400 to 450mm of penetration. Why does it matter when Javelin is impacting the roof armor? Well, there is a big problem. The roof armor is actually a really small area. Realistically, the turret roof would be the area you would want to hit, since hitting the little you can of the house roof wouldn't be enough to destroy the tank. But the problem is that the Javelin missile doesn't hit directly from above, but at an angle, and the further the target is, the sharper the angle the missile will make. Now, when I said that the turret roof is the small area, I wasn't kidding. To the naked eye, it can seem big, but you have to keep in mind the thickness of the composite armor of the tank's turret. The area where only thin roof armor would be present is smaller than the entire area of the turret. Now, take into consideration that the missile isn't impacting the tank directly from above, and the kill area becomes much smaller, because if you hit the roof from an angle closer to the edges, it will enter on the top and exit on the side, which wouldn't actually destroy the tank. Another big issue with the missile not hitting directly from above is that many times it hits the side armor of the tank, and you can actually see that in videos online. This mainly happens on the older tanks, which either have no ERA or they have ERA that does not affect tandem-shaped hit, so the result is, of course, the destruction of the tank. But modern Russian tanks have relict side skirts, usually with 4 S-24 blocks in bags over them. This combination can stop Javelin dead on. On 4 S-24 trials, it managed to stop RPG-29 rocket completely. An RPG-29 rocket has the same penetration as Javelin, and that is 750mm, on top of also being tandem-shaped. So if the missile hits any of these areas, the tank will be fine. Javelin is not guaranteed to hit the roof armor of the tank's turret. The missile does not have a brain, it follows the thermal signature, it can't differentiate the turret from the hull, so the chances of it hitting this area are practically proportional to the ratio of this area compared to the rest of the tank, which means the chances are not the best. There is also the engine area, but if you hit it, you won't destroy the tank. You can only immobilize it, but the tank can take some actions to protect itself against more hits from the Javelin, which brings us to the next point. Another problem with the Javelin is that if it is spotted, it can easily be countered. All Russian tanks are equipped with aerosol smoke dischargers, which create the big smoke area in the thermal picture, and it cannot be seen through in thermal imaging systems like regular smoke, which results in Javelin losing the track of its target. This also means that once this smoke is discharged, you won't be able to lock onto the tank because the missile would lock onto the entire area of the smoke. Of course, Javelin is not easy to detect, since the only way to actually detect the missile is to see it, since no system can detect a thermal lock-on. So this type of protection is only really useful if you have already been hit and your tank is still operational to prevent any further hits and possibly escape. Another problem is that the Javelin can't be used in urban areas or forests because it can't be fired on close range and the missile can hit the buildings and trees way before it reaches its target. And the last issue for Javelin is its cost and availability. One missile costs from $80,000 to $100,000, and by information from last year, around 12,000 launchers have been made. That's not really a small amount, but that's not a lot either. I just want to note that Javelin does have the direct line of sight firing ability, which launches the missile forward and you can use that without locking onto the target, but that's not the point of this video. Next we will look at TOW-2B. This anti-tank guided missile works in the way that it is launched from a TOW-2 launcher and flies directly above the target and then explodes above it, sending 2 explosively formed penetrators directly from above. But they don't go one after another, but rather in 2 slightly offset directions to increase the chances of hitting the target. It has 2 sensors, one for optical identification and the other detects the iron in the armor. Once the target is reached, it detonates, sending the penetrators to the target. Now, all the available footage of TOW-2B is against the targets with no explosive reactive armor, and against them it's probably fine. The difference between TOW-2B and Javelin is that TOW-2B hits the target directly from above, no matter the distance, since it pretty much flies above it. But again, a hit to the turret's roof is not guaranteed. It has more chances to hit it than Javelin, but it can still hit other parts of the tank. The problems here are that the penetrators are kinda small. They can't penetrate much armor, and no information about their actual penetration can be found anywhere. But it is questionable if they can go through explosive reactive armor and still penetrate the roof armor and create enough damage inside of the tank to destroy it. Some sources state that it has the ability to go through ERA and the roof of the tank, but just like with Javelin, it is most definitely older ERA, contact 5 at best. Relict is made to be more sensitive than contact 5, so there is a chance that it can stop TOW-2B completely. Now, that hasn't been confirmed by anyone. But Ukrainian Noj and Duplet ERAs are confirmed to be able to stop that kind of penetrators launched from TOW-2B missile. Therefore, it would be pretty much useless against them. But the tanks such as T-72B3 still retain contact 5 on the turret's roof, so TOW-2B would most probably still be effective against it, and it currently is the most numerous tank in Russian service. T-90M and its expert variant T-90MS have rallied on the roof, and the ammunition in the carousel is pretty well armored from all angles. And all extra ammunition is stored in the rear bustle with blowout panels. Not to mention that T-90M and MS have aramid cover on the inside of the tank, so even if the penetrators manage to go through ERA and the roof armor, aramid would probably either stop them or heavily degrade their performance. And at the end, if they manage to go through all of that, penetrating the actual armor of the carousel is extremely questionable. TOW-2 launcher is practically a stationary weapon. For regular infantry, it can't be used in offensive. It is useful for armored vehicles though, but that requires them to be completely stationary until the missile reaches the target. And in modern era, with every tank having a thermal imaging system, that's not really the best idea. So Javelin would probably be better in offensive and TOW-2B in defensive operations. Don't forget to check out War Thunder, where you can take control of many land, air or naval vehicles. Use the link from the description to get a premium vehicle and a 3-day account boost when you register. Remember, the game is completely free for PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Just download and play. At the end, both are very capable weapons, but having to rely on small area to penetrate the target with not the best hit chances means that they aren't really as good as they are praised to be. Keep in mind that the point of this video was to make those weapons seem useless. I just wanted to point out some of the problems, and that those aren't the ultimate tank killing weapons with 100% guaranteed tank destructions as some articles have written about them. And I mean, pretty much all videos of them destroying tanks you can find online are pretty old tanks, latest being from the 80s. That would be all. If you like my content, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. It would really mean a lot. And if you can't, leave a like on the video or subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a nice day.